Hey, this is Chris, keeping it real, facts over fear. How are you doing this morning? Happy Monday. Weekly COVID herd immunity chart for North Carolina, 11/29/2020, which includes data through 11/28, which was Saturday. First of all, the notes, all data in the charts is on a 14-day rolling average, or is derived from something on a 14-day rolling average, so that's where this curve is derived from. The left chart shows recalculated data based on CDC statements that only 1 in 9 COVID cases are actually confirmed. So in other words, for every case that's confirmed, there are another 8 cases out there where people have had it but don't know they've had it. They haven't gotten tested. There's no record of them having had it, and so they are kind of like the silent majority of this pandemic, which is kind of good if you think about it. If for every one person who thinks they have it, there's 8 people who have had it, or for every person who's been tested positive, there's 8 people who have been positive and have not had any symptoms at all, or have had the symptoms have been so mild that they didn't bother to get tested. So that is a lot less than the 20 times that I had been using in this particular chart, based on the Karolinska Institute data in Sweden. So that was the most optimistic projection, and now we're going to fall back to the CDC more official kind of projection. The CDC previously had said it was about a 10-to-1 ratio, like back in July, and so they've dropped that estimate now down to about 8-to-1. Cases are now roughly 50% higher than they were back at the previous high peak of mid-July, but the 14-day rolling average fell for the first time in 2 weeks, and so that is good news, especially considering that a lot of people got tested last week in the run-up to Thanksgiving because they wanted to have some kind of assurance that they weren't going to go travel somewhere or go see their relatives or whatever they were going to do over the Thanksgiving weekend and put other people in unnecessary danger. And so we had a big uptick in tests. We had a big uptick in positive cases, which is not surprising. So the fact that the 14-day rolling average has fallen over this past weekend, is good news. We'll see how that works out. The death rate is now at 0.9%, one of the lowest points during this pandemic, and so that's what this graph here is for. Shows you the number of deaths per confirmed. That should read confirmed case, but I think everybody understands a case is a confirmed case, and so you can see we've got a definite. Well, actually, I guess it did hit 0.9% a few days ago, but now it has done the same again, and so that is really good news. Remember, the whole point was to not have anyone die unnecessarily, and so no one is dying unnecessarily. Everyone's able to go to the hospital, everyone's able to get care, and unfortunately some people are going to die from this pandemic, and that's just the way it is. And there's really not much else I can say about that. The virus has now spread throughout the state. I had that on there last week, and I just wanted to reemphasize that this week. The virus has completely spread through North Carolina, well into rural areas that it had not gotten into before, because people are moving around, and it's not really Thanksgiving. It's just been, I think it's just been a general, like, okay, I haven't seen people that I love and cherish in like 5 months now, or 6 months, or 7 months, and I'm just going to go see them, and we're just going to, or I just want to party, or whatever I want to do, me being anybody out there. So the outlook, hopefully this week we'll see a peak in the 14 daily rolling average of cases. So far it has. I looked at the data yesterday, and the 14-day rolling average dropped another 100 or so. So thanks, of course, everything in italics is what I wrote last week. So Thanksgiving is still the big unknown. If the population has already thoroughly mixed, then we'll see a peak this week. If not, we'll see another rise at the beginning of next week. So maybe not Monday or Tuesday. I mean, if you figure there's basically a 5-day incubation period. So really, if you think about the significance of that statement, then you understand that it's not just Thanksgiving Day, but it's also the Friday and the Saturday and the Sunday following, that people have been out of town and mixing it up with one another. And so, we may see probably by Wednesday, I would think, and it just depends how the reporting goes in the counties, getting their data, the various places that, the labs and the doctor's offices and all those other places, how fast are they going to get their reporting back into North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. And so that's going to have a big part of it, which is why we do, well, it's not why we do this, but it's just, this going back to this graph here, it's a look back in time, if you will, and we can see when these people were actually tested. And so we see there was a huge bump in testing last week and week before last, of course, because people were going out of town for Thanksgiving. And so how that will relate to the number of confirmed cases, which is here, which is reported by the date that they are confirmed, not by the date that they are collected. And so we'll just see how that works. If we don't see a peak this week, then we'll see another rise sometime this week. I'm not certain that we will, but then again, I don't have any actual data to go from, and I'm not clairvoyant, and so that's just kind of how it is. So the new herd immunity date is now 4/15/2020. So, changing the supposition of 20 to 1 to 8 to 1 or 8 to 1, excuse me, that has pushed the herd immunity date out about 4.5 months. So that's what 4 times 4, 18 weeks. So that is the new target date for herd immunity with no vaccine, no nothing. Just that's what's going to happen. And so that's enough on that right now. Deaths remain steady at 33 on a 14-day rolling average. Again, this is really good news. Back at the beginning of this pandemic, people were predicting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% death rate. Even with just using the official figures, it's now down below 1%. And of course, if you factor in the 8 to 1 margin of cases that the CDC has come up with, and that puts that down to 0.1% or thereabouts. I didn't do a calculation on that. So 0.1% death rate in a pandemic is, we don't like people dying, but it's a heck of a lot better than 2 or 3 or 4 or 5%, right? I mean, it's a quantum leap better. I expect the deaths per case to remain about the same, or maybe a few percent higher. In other words, a few percent higher than 0.9%. So it might go back up a little bit to 1 to 1.1% in the next several days. It does, unfortunately, for people who do die from this, it does take a while for that to happen, especially, just in general. I don't really have an especially note for that. So even with the recalculation, in North Carolina is still about halfway to herd immunity. So we're at 377,000 to go out of 7 million, and so we're still almost halfway through this curve. What I really do expect is a relatively modest bump at the end of this week. So in other words, what I expect to see is this purple line continue to move more in this direction, and therefore I expect this line to move further in this direction, because this is a projection. So the more people who get it now, the further this line will move to the left. But then I really do expect if there is another peak, if there is another significant peak, I really do expect a steady decline in cases through the rest of December. So I expect this line, it may peak for a few days here, for the next week or so, and then I do expect it start to moving more of a shallow slope. And so I expect really that the end date is going to remain pretty much about the same. So we will see what happens as a result of Thanksgiving, if anything. So I'm not one of these people who get hysterical about it. It's just, let's just look at the thing and let's see what's going on. So, of course, the hospitalization chart will be out on Wednesday or Thursday morning, and we will take a look at how that's going. And then I'll do the other chart again on Friday, and I might just, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I don't want to do too many charts, but then again, I want you to have information. That's the whole point. If you have information, if you really know what's going on the ground, if you really understand all these stats, then I think it just helps you make better decisions. I think it helps you be a little less apprehensive about what's going on. And by the way, this spreadsheet is downloadable. I'm going to put it on my Google Drive and give you a public link in the description so you can take a look at it for yourself. If you do that and you notice something that you don't agree with, or you think there's another aspect of this that I need to be thinking about, I'll be more than happy to hear from you. So leave your questions and comments in the section below. Like and subscribe. We appreciate when you do, and we'll see you on the next fact-filled video.